to make sure we all understand and have a common definition for MVP. So obviously it stands for minimal viable product, but that's not what I'm talking about. What I'm talking about is the fact that a lot of people think that the term MVP is synonymous with beta, or at least we sort of used to refer to the first version of a product as being a beta. That's not what an MVP is. If you have that definition or you're thinking about it as just a simplified product, it's going to be very confusing and hard to understand how to actually build an MVP. So let's take a look at the actual definition of MVP. Remember that it's not a beta. A version of a product which allows a team to collect the maximum amount of validated learning about customers with the least effort. All right, so this term here, this phrase, to collect the maximum amount of validated learning about customers. So this definition is it's from 2009. Since then, it's been a nice term that's sort of evolved from the community. We've actually replaced this by and large with the term test their riskiest assumption. So I'm going to simplify this definition a little bit and simply say a version of a product which allows a team to test their riskiest assumption with the least effort. That's what an MVP is. All right, so you can already see that we're moving away from this beta concept. It's not just like some simplified product. It literally has the word test in it. It is a kind of test. It's more of a test than it is a product. All right, so it's more like an experiment than it is an actual piece of software or hardware. So let's take an example. One of the most famous examples of an MVP is Dropbox and the explainer video they started their entire company with. So the question is a video of a product an MVP? Well, like I said, this is a famous example of an MVP, so it is an MVP. It's one of the canonical examples. But let's just take a look at the definition and see if it sort of passes the test. So a version of a product that allows a team to test the riskiest assumption with the least effort. The key word here is a version of a product. Now, version here does not mean like software versioning like V1, V2. Version here means a representation of a product. If you have some way to represent a product, being with an actual product itself or some representation thereof, like a video, that counts as an MVP, as long as you're testing the riskiest assumption with the least amount of effort. All right, so the video, definitely MVP, that counts. Let's take another example, like a PowerPoint demo. So if we think about a PowerPoint demo, imagine going into some corporate clients and like putting together, no software at all, but just putting together a series of slides that maybe mock up what software might look like, or maybe it doesn't even mock that up at all. Maybe it just talks about the problems that it solves. Is that an example of an MVP? Well, if you think about a slideshow as being the same as a video, it doesn't have as fancy transitions, then yeah, it can absolutely be a MVP because it's simply a representation of a product that tests the riskiest assumption with the least amount of effort. And you could arguably say that a PowerPoint demonstration has even less effort than a video. So maybe this might be even a better MVP than a full-on product demo. So yeah, absolutely, PowerPoint counts as an MVP in the right scenario. All right, let's take another layer of abstraction. So what about a landing page? Is that an example of an MVP? Well, if you think of a landing page as simply one set of slides that are sort of layered one after another, you have a big long page and you got one slide and a second slide and a third slide, then absolutely, this is just a PowerPoint deck in a different version, right, in a different format. So yeah, as long as you're testing the riskiest assumption with the least amount of effort, a landing page can absolutely be an MVP. Taking one more step down this sort of logical line, if you're able to capture the essence of a landing page in a Facebook ad, with a title, an image, and a description, if you're able to sort of represent everything that's kind of there in your landing page, is this an MVP? Absolutely. Let's talk about why. So again, it's a version of a product, a representation of a product, which allows the team to test the riskiest assumption with the least effort. So the key here is that they're testing with the least amount of effort. As long as you're testing your riskiest assumption with the least amount of effort, you're building an MVP. You could even argue that if Dropbox, when they made their video, if their riskiest assumption was do people want our help solving file sharing problems? If they were not sure that that was a true statement, then they could have actually created an ad to determine whether or not they could actually find some people who wanted their help solving file sharing problems. So what I'm saying is that, of course, the Dropbox MVP was an MVP. The video was an MVP because it was testing their riskiest assumption. But if they had a different risky assumption, a Facebook ad could have also been an MVP. It just would have been for a different risky assumption. All right. So least effort is key here. And the other thing you can tell is that riskiest assumption is also key. And it turns out your risky assumption will naturally change as you go about validating risky assumptions. So you'll take your riskiest assumption, you'll validate that, and then you'll move on to the next risky assumption and the next one. And each time you'll be finding the least effortful way to test that risky assumption.